everybody. Welcome to Chapter 9, Healthcare and Healthcare Management. Today we'll be discussing what that looks like for the people we serve, how we can help them and advocate for them in the medical setting. We'll be touching on advanced directives and POLST, and also a little bit on bloodborne pathogens, but not a whole lot since we already take bloodborne pathogens. So here we go. I'm going to share my screen with you and get right to it. All right. What are common signs and symptoms of illness? Might be coughing, headache, stuffy ears, runny nose, crusty eyes. There's a lot of different signs or symptoms of illness. How should we respond if we suspect that the person we're supporting is ill or sick? Well, depending on the person's medical needs, it's going to be different for everybody. You should always listen to your supervisor, and if the person you support has very specific medical needs, then you would follow their plan. We're just doing a basic overall health care and healthcare care support right now. What could happen if a DSP does not respond timely when they see signs or symptoms of illness? So you're going to want to look for changes in daily routine, behavior, ways of communicating, appearance, general manner or mood, and physical health. Review, be observant, and documentation guidelines on page 92 of your toolkit. Once you've learned this type of information about someone you support, what do you do with it? You're going to make a report to the supervisor, make a doctor's appointment, document and monitor maybe, make the person comfortable, and or call 911 if necessary. You've observed changes, determined it is not a medical emergency, and contacted the supervisor. Now what? What do? Evergreen would like you to contact your coordinator to inform them of your concerns. Write an incident report depending on the medical necessity, and send a T-log to staff informing them of the client's condition. Call 911 if it is medically necessary, like they're grasping at their checks, intermittent breathing, they're having a hard time breathing, uncontrollable vomiting, and diarrhea. Also, pain. Pain is another reason why we should call 911. If someone's having excruciating pain, we will want to call 911. We're not professionals in the field of medicine. It is not our place to make a diagnosis or a recommendation, but based on the person we're supporting, we can help come up with the best possible plan of action. Make a doctor's appointment. You may be asked by your supervisor to make a doctor's appointment. Document and monitor. Make the first person feel comfortable. Call 911. Always document. If it's not documented, it didn't happen. So you're going to respond differently to someone who says, I have a sore throat. That we might be able to do some things for them at home, like gargle with salt water, give them Tylenol, maybe even some cold and cough medicine, rather than someone who's grabbing their chest going, Oh, I feel like someone just sat on my chest and it's really, really hard to breathe. That's when we're really gonna need 911. And even if they don't say those things, if they're just like, and their face is changing color, maybe it's pale and their lips are purple. We want to look for those changes in demeanor. How do I document? Be objective, not influenced by your feelings or opinions in considering and representing the facts. You can be subjective as long as it's based on the measure of a baseline. So George usually greets me. George will normally in the morning at 8 o'clock greet me with a smile, and his face is usually pink and bright and cheery. This morning he did not greet me, and his face was gray and sunk in, and his eyes were half closed. It almost looked like his eyes were swollen. So you want to be specific, um, measurable, a quantifiable unit, time, weight, duration, temperature, pulse, ox reading. So if you have the little pulse ox finger things that check your oxygen level, like that's a really good way to measure. Joe had a pulse ox yesterday of 98. When I got on this morning, he was coughing and really, really hard and said that his chest hurt. When I put the pulse ox on him, it was at 90. Okay. That's an indicator something might be going on. I'll check his pulse ox every 15 to 20 minutes for the next hour. If it continues to go down, I'll call 911. Date, height, blood pressure, BMs. If they're having a BM, a lot of times the people we serve say that they have a stomach ache. And oftentimes the people we serve have medication that cause constipation. And if they haven't had a bowel movement in a while, then we need to know that and we need to document it. And then there is, of course, taking your glucose or blood sugar. Observable, using the senses to describe the incident. What did you see, hear, smell, taste, touch? Um, those are all good ways to describe what's going on. So, for an example, today when I arrived on shift, you can read this. This is an example of what, you know, it is to have something objective in the sentence, but it's supported by objective, measurable, and observable information. Clear communication and documentation. We need to know clearly what is going on with this person. If I read something and it's confusing for me, then it's going to be confusing for someone else who doesn't know Jack and are going to wonder what really happened. So make sure that when you document, you use periods and commas to give breaks so that people know that, okay, we're not doing run on sentences. And just saying things like, he seemed off today, he wasn't quite himself, was not out of bed yet, does not give a clear picture of what is actually going on with him. We need a clear picture. If there is something wrong, we need more information. When you see changes in behavior, are you blowing it off like any normal day, or are you checking it out? When did the behavior change? Was there an illness or injury that resulted in a change of routine behavior or independent abilities? At the time the change happened, did someone check it out? I.e., did the person you're working with receive medical care? Was there follow-up that was missed? Did it get reported to the supervisor? If in doubt, check it out. I was working with a gentleman, and this was a long time ago. He was a very ambulatory, talkative, and somewhat aggressive person. He had some behavior challenges where he would hit or throw things at staff. Well, one day my staff called me and told me that this person was laying around in bed, would not get up to go use the bathroom, had defecated and urinated on themselves, which is not normal behavior, and was having a hard time with balance and wouldn't eat. They just wouldn't eat. And this person could eat. They liked to eat. So I told them to take him to the emergency room because it sounded very severe. He went to the emergency room and they didn't keep him. They said all of his vitals were normal. So the next week, a couple days later, when I came in for my shift, he was still behaving the same way, but now he's a little bit worse. His skin is gray. He looks dehydrated. He's not eating or drinking anything. And I'm starting to get worried about him and I'm frightened for his health. So I take him to the emergency room and uh, they get him in the emergency room. They see him for a few minutes. They say his vitals are okay and send him home. Well, by Friday, he could barely walk. He was still defecating and urinating on himself. And he was just in a really bad way. And then he said his chest hurt. So finally, I took him to the walk-in clinic and they said there was too much going on for him. So then I took him to the hospital. And at this point, I'm really frightened. I'm frightened that something very, very serious is going on and nobody is taking us seriously. And I told the doctor very clearly, I said, I know this person and I know them well. This is not normal behavior, and I am not leaving here until we have some answers. And I put my foot down. I said, I am not going to go. The doctor said that they could keep him because of his oxygen levels. And come to find out, he had a saddle clot, a blood clot trapped right here in the middle of his chest, in his lungs. And had it broke free, it would have he would have had a major heart attack. So there sometimes we need to check things out more. Trust your gut. If you really think something is going on, check it out. What's the worst thing going to happen? You're going to go sit in the ER for an hour or two and find out that they're okay. Oh, well, like that, if that's the worst that could happen, I would rather do that than not do anything about it and have them end up in ER on life support or, with a much more severe, debilitating medical illness. Benefits of writing down the information: protect the person you're working with from abuse and neglect. Show a history of slow change, which can indicate an undiagnosed illness. puts everyone on the same page and as a team and address concerns with healthcare professionals with clear data collection. It provides important data collection for the people we support, the agency, and DDA. If you didn't document, it didn't happen. So document, document, document. So this is the URL for the Tonic Clonic Seizures, SD. This is a really good video to watch. It shows a very good idea of what a tonic clonic seizure might look like and how to support somebody when they're having that seizure. This is a video on what is substance abuse. If you're suspecting substance abuse by a client, let your supervisor know. Might be able to get them help. Although there is somebody that I know of who we support who might not meet the criteria for substance abuse, however, does have an issue with certain substances, in which we should make sure that we're monitoring and supporting them with making better choices. Mental health, empathy. Sometimes mental illness is known as the invisible disability. I think that means that it's an illness that people can hide from others, and if you're really good at hiding it, people rarely know that it even exists for you. It can be debilitating and it can be unsettling when you're going through it, and you may think that you're okay when you're really, really not. People hide depression from their friends and coworkers and others for various reasons. I think one of the reasons that I can think of is that people, I personally, if it were me, I wouldn't want people to get excited about my depression or worried that something was going to happen to me. Because I am a natural helper, it's my inclination to protect others from my own personal, either mental illness or physical illnesses, because I don't want them to worry about me. And sometimes we do have to let people know, even if we don't want to. How does mental illness impact your workplace, colleagues, and the individuals you support? This job can be very demanding, and sometimes, depending on the day or who we're working with, it can be a real challenge to want to come into work, especially if you have a person who has dementia or Alzheimer's or someone who has some other kind of mental illness where they might not treat you the best, but you know that that's not their intention. It would still make it hard to come in and work with them every day, knowing that maybe they're going to yell at you or scream at you, but you know that it's not their fault. And you also know it's not your fault that they're mad and upset. But it's very difficult to manage that when you're in the throes of mental illness. So we work hard to support and empower those in our programs. What do we need to consider as individual we work with ages? They're going to need more help with daily activities, increased medical needs, normal memory loss. Is there a risk of this person being ignored because an individual has a developmental disability? Who knows? And we also have to consider a physician's order for life-sustaining treatment. Does your client have one of these? Is it out on site? Do they have a DNR? So what is the legal terms that are needed within their home so that we can provide them with the support that they want and need? Bloodborne pathogens. So there's some bloodborne pathogens. There is hepatitis C, hepatitis B, hepatitis A. There's HIV, human immunodeficiency virus. To protect yourself from bloodborne pathogens, sometimes you'll be wearing gloves and then maybe a mask, goggles, and a gown, depending on the need. Bloodborne pathogens are spread by needle stick or puncture wound, helping a person who's bleeding, changing lines that are contaminated with blood or other bodily fluids, helping to clean vomit or urine or feces, changing or dressing a wound, contact with mucous membranes, mouth, nose, and eyes. It cannot be spread by providing care using standard precautions, sharing and eating utensils, plates or glasses, sharing bathrooms, through the air, hugging, shaking, or holding hands. If you're exposed, flush immediately with water for 5 minutes. Rinse under clean water. Blood or bodily fluids in your mouth. Rinse mouth with 50/50 hydrogen peroxide and water. Rinse with clean water. Get medical attention. Both eyes and mouth. Immediately rinse as above and seek medical attention. Needle, stick, or puncture wound. Wash thoroughly with soap and water, or pour a small amount of hydrogen peroxide on the wound. Get medical help for further attention. Any bite, scratch, or lesion that may have had blood. Wash the area thoroughly with soap and water and pour a small amount of hydrogen peroxide on the wound. Cover wound with sterile dressing and get medical attention. All right. Any questions, thoughts, or concerns? You can bring them up at our meet, our check-in. And that is it for this chapter. And I hope you all have a good day.